Today is a big day. We're going to be installing our Newpowa solar panels on the Airstream. These are 400 watt panels right here from Newpowa that we're going to be installing onto the Airstream. And we have a box of other goodies. This will include the brackets, the mounting brackets we're going to be using right here to hold everything in place, and some of our cables that we're going to be using as well. Our Airstream, the 28-foot from 2018, is pre-wired for solar. And what that means is there are outlets on the roof. Now, Airstream was using panels by ZAMP at that point. So those are ZAMP connectors up on the roof of the Airstream. And then the wires come down and into a compartment. That's where we're going to be mounting the MPPT controller. Now, all of the panels from Newpowa have the standard, what seems to be the standard now, connector for solar panels. But on our Airstream, they are the ZAMP panels, which are an SAE type connector, but with the polarity reversed. So I purchased separately some adapters that'll go from those round connectors into an SAE connector, and then also a polarity reverser, so that when I plug them in, the polarity be reversed and the positive and negative will be correct down in the coach where the wires come in. The other option would be to not use that adapter and simply reverse the wires before they go into the MPPT controller. 50-50 chance of which one I'm going to do, so we're going to have to hold on and see which way we end up. Right now, what we need to do is to get the panels out and get them protected and get all the mounting hardware mounted on them. This is the mounting hardware that I got, and it is the mounting designed for a curved roof, and they fit together pretty interesting. They'll go like this, with this part here going to the panel, and this flat plate will be secured on the roof. But they allow, with the design, for some movement and to adjust for a curved roof. Part of the mounting hardware that comes with a kit are these self-tapping screws, which are used in most installations. Now, we're not going to be using these because I really don't want to pierce any holes in the roof of the Airstream, but they are nice. They have little, like a neoprene or silicone or some kind of washer right there on them. So when you screw them down into the roof, the brackets, through the brackets, it'll help to waterproof it. And then, of course, you'd caulk over it with some Sikaflex. But what we're going to use is we're going to use 3M VHB tape to secure these to our roof. And VHB tape is used to secure windows in skyscrapers. So it should be plenty strong enough. And I've seen it used in many applications. After we get everything mounted up there, then we're going to be using some Sikaflex to go around the feet, just basically to protect that tape.
Check 1, 2, let the beat break through. 3, 4, light up the floor. 5, 6, got a brand new mix. We're turning up now, yeah, this is it. Shining brighter than the city lights. Bringing fire, keeping it alive. Do you feel that rhythm running through your veins? It's all about the heat and love you bring. Ooh, I'm locked and ready to flow, so smooth. Do you feel that spark, man, you got a funk.
So one of the most difficult aspects of this is trying to figure out the curve of those feet and where they need to go so it lines up correctly. And I think I finally have the formula. I'll have to show it to you in a little bit. There's other obstacles here in the roof. I had to change a little bit how I thought the feet were going to fit because there were other obstacles. I was mounting it higher. You have the ability to mount this higher or lower with those curved feet. And I was mounting it high, and it was actually hitting the shroud on the air conditioner. So I figured out a positioning of the feet where it's lower down now, doesn't hit the shroud of the air conditioner unit, so it can slide under, because it needs to be able to tuck under that just a little bit due to the width of these panels. And then the other challenge is the skylight window. Our front skylight window is kind of a little bit in the way, the flange on it. So that had to be taken into effect too, so move the feet front and back. So it took quite a bit to get these squared away where they need to be.
Twist that bar, yeah, you got it right. Spin it, shake, clap, hop into the sound.
With those 4 panels, our plan is to install 3 actually on this side of the rig and 1 over on the other side near the front. And looking at things, that's kind of the best layout where we're going to kind of maximize sun exposure and where there's clear space on the roof of the Airstream. The 2 panels here on the front of the Airstream will be wired in parallel. That'll make them, in essence, 1 panel, 1 big 200-watt panel instead of 2 separate 100-watt panels. Then the one in the back and the one in the front and the other side will be wired in independently. We have 3 outlets on our roof of the Airstream, and wiring that way uses up the 3 outlets. See, this is how I had the feet, and they were up like that. This is how I'm putting them on there now, and that curve is about perfect to match the curve on the Airstream. But as always, it's the actual fitting of everything to make sure everything works that takes the longest to get everything situated and fit. But I really like where we're headed right now. I like the little lower profile to the roof, and the curve matches. They definitely suggested I needed these curved brackets, and they were 100% right. It is going to make it a little interesting to mount the back ones that are going to be underneath that air conditioner shroud a little bit. I might have to actually loosen that shroud or take it off so that I can get to those feet in order to caulk them in. So that's going to be the most interesting part of all of this. Feet are going to be right along the edge of this gutter line right there. I might have to end up removing that air conditioner shroud back there so that I can lift the panel up to peel off the backing of that VHP tape and drop it back down and be able to caulk around there. I don't know, we'll see. That's going to be, I think that there is going to be about the tightest place we're going to have to work. My original plan was to actually pull the panels right off, disconnect them on the feet to caulk everything in. I was going to stick them down like this and then caulk them in by removing the panels, but I don't think that plan is going to work. I'm going to have to use the caulk with the panels on, which will probably necessitate me getting up on the roof, I think from the other side to get to these, which is going to make it interesting to do the ones on the other side because I don't want to crawl across these panels. Use the brains on this one. We have all of our panels test fit, and I'm certain of the placement of the solar panels where they're all going. Here's where I've marked in the channel where the feet are, right there and right there. There's the back, and that's going to get wiped off when I clean all this with alcohol. I'm just about to stick these down, but first what I'm going to do, since I'm confident now in all the placement of all the brackets, I am going to put some Loctite on these bolts here that hold the feet down and then get those all in place. Then I'm going to clean the spots where the feet are going to be adhered with the VHB tape. I'm going to clean those with some alcohol, and then we'll be ready to stick these down. It is going to be interesting, the ones that are up in the center of the trailer, because in order to align these, I've got to stick the 2 that are on the outside first, and then somehow I've got to get up in there and get that red backing off of the VHB tape, lift these up a little bit, and then they'll drop right down perfectly in place. But we'll figure it out.
Slide, let your body slide.
Now that we have all 4 of our solar panels mounted, it's time to do some caulk work. What I'm going to do is I'm going to caulk around the feet and on those screw hole areas just to help seal this. The VHB tape is plenty strong enough to hold these solar panels to the roof, or so I'm told. But the Sikaflex 221 is what we're going to use to seal this around, basically to ensure water tightness. I don't want any driving rain or anything to be able to seep underneath there. So let's get to it. It's a different day, and a couple days after I put the panels on the roof, and we're here in Oregon, and it's turned kind of chilly out here. The other morning, it was actually a little over 33 degrees, pretty early in the morning. It's about 40 out here right now. But anyway, we're going to work on getting some of the wiring done a little bit on the roof of the Airstream now that our caulk and everything is all set up. And so I've got all the wires and panels and fuses to be installed right here. So let's get the ladder set up and keep moving on this. Well, this is the single panel that I've installed up towards the front of the Airstream, and we're pretty darn solidly on there now. But what I'm going to do real quick, just to make sure that everything is going good, I'm going to check voltage, make sure that the panel's actually producing some voltage. So I've got my multimeter here, and let's pull this out. You know, it really doesn't matter what brand of multimeter you use. I've got a couple brands listed in our Amazon store, and I'll throw a QR code right over here. But to me, it's something really valuable to have on the road, especially with the 12-volt systems. You can check and make sure, troubleshoot things and make sure that everything is working. But here's our connectors, and we've got a positive side and a negative side. Of course, we have a positive and negative connector on this. So I'm going to turn this on, and it defaults to AC voltage. So I'm going to set it to DC and then change our range right there. So we're going to insert the negative. You can see there's actually a little metal right in there. I don't know if you can see that in there, but I'm going to insert the probe, the negative probe on the negative side, and the positive probe on the positive side, and then we'll see what voltage we come up with, if anything. And yeah, the panel, we were pretty much in shade. There's just a little bit of sunlight hitting this, but it is producing, it says 22 volts. So we definitely have some voltage coming out of these panels. That's great. That's great to know. So I'm going to connect the inline fuse to this now. And I've got an inline fuse we're putting in each one of these, a 10 amp fuse inline on the single panels. And then the 2 panels that I'm going to wire together in parallel, we're going to put a 20 amp fuse on that. Then the wiring is going to go through the pre-wire box. So I've got adapters to go to the SAE adapters. Then it's going to go down into the Airstream, into the MPPT controller. And I think I mentioned before, I'm going to have to reverse the polarity right there because of the ZAMP connectors on the Airstream. While they are an SAE connector, they reverse the negative and positive leads, and there is not enough room by that connector to put the adapter up here on the top. So we're simply just going to switch the wires at the bottom, and then I'll mark that, which one is positive and which one is negative. So again, our connectors are not going to interface with the pre-wire panel on the Airstream. So I did get an adapter to change those out from the kind of now standard cylindrical connectors to the SAE style connector, like this, kind of the old school one. And the ones I ordered I'm going to have links to all this stuff in our Amazon storefront. I'll put a link directly to that page right over here for you too. But these did come with an adapter, plugs in, it's going to reverse the polarity. But the problem is there's not enough room for all this to fit between where the input panel is, the ports, and then our sunroof that's here. So I can't use this to reverse the polarity on top. So we're just going to reverse the polarity on the bottom. And for safety, again, I'm going to fuse every one of these connections. There'll be a 10 amp on this panel. The other panel in the back will also have a 10 amp inline fuse. We're doing some work on the campground. I don't know if you can hear that. We got tractors running around and all kinds of stuff. Prepping the campground up for winter. This is the worker campground for employees of the Natural History Association. It is September right now, and we're actually in Oregon where we are, pretty near Crater Lake. We're gearing up for snow. Snow will probably start to happen at Crater Lake before we leave early in October. But here's an inline fuse. This did come directly from Newpowa, and it is a Newpowa item. And again, this is going to go on our positive lead. So we are just going to snap this in place. These all lock in. Just put this in first, and that just snaps together right there. And then from there, we're going to put our positive and negative leads on, and these other connectors that I have are marked red and black. All the cables from Newpowa just have the little positive and negative symbol. They are black, and the extension cables I got from Newpowa are black. And then I'll be zip tying these down to the roof as well. But let's get these plugged in as well. So we'll get our positive lead plugged in. Click. And now our negative lead plugged in right there. And then we'll just be ready to be able to plug this in after we get our controller wired in. The very last connections we're going to make are going to be plugging these in to the roof after the controller is hooked up to the battery, ready to charge, and the controller gets its power to work its brain, its digital brain, from the battery. So you have to hook that side up first, and then the solar panels last. So we're going to be doing that, but we'll slip this underneath and over and kind of route it to our input, which is right over there. As long as we're here on the roof, I'm going to take the opportunity to replace the foam weather stripping in the bathroom vent. Now, I had replaced this a couple of years ago. We were in Florida, and I used a denser foam, which I thought was a brilliant idea at the time. But then what happened is it needs to compress a bit to seal, so that really the cheapest foam that is there that's really compressible seems really to be the best to use. So I'm going to be taking this off. As you can see, this has started to fail and is coming loose and out. And I just want to be sure before we hit the road that we're fully sealed. So let's get this taken off and replace that weather seal. Now to make sure this sticks well, hold on. To make sure this sticks well, I'm going to clean all of this dust and dirt off and do a final clean with some alcohol right along this edge here, and then I'm going to apply our new foam. Just like that. Good as new. So I've removed this L shape of our sofa so that I can get in here and all. And I had to move the subwoofer that mounts right there. So I moved it, and where the subwoofer is sitting is right about where the controller, the solar controller, is going to be mounted. Although it's possible I could flip these around. I could move the subwoofer to there, and that would work. And that puts the controller a little closer. I'm a little concerned of the length of the wires on that controller. But the control box is underneath this area of the sofa right here. Let's crawl under there, and I'll show you what's going on. So let's get in here, talk about what's going on. So in here, we have the yellow and green wires, and those are the wires that are coming in from the solar panels, from that connector that's up on the roof, the Airstream. Then we also have a positive bus bar and a negative bus bar that connects directly to the battery. So the controller is going to be wired in directly to the battery, to that bus bar. So of course, positive to positive and negative to negative, and that'll power the controller. Then after that, we're going to take the wires and reversing the positive and negative again, the green and the red, or green and the yellow. Those will go directly into the solar controller, and then we're going to start plugging in those solar panels to provide power to it, and that should complete our solar install. After a lot of work and some really close quarter work, I have the battery terminals hooked up. So now we're hooked up to the bus bars for the 12-volt system, and that is running out. And I'll show you where we're going to put the Newpowa controller and how all that's going to work. The controller is going to mount right here. See, I've got screws in right there that'll hold it up. I'll show you how that works. You can see one, two, three, 4 screws right there. And then this black cable here is the cable that's hooking to the battery, and the red and green are the 12-gauge cables that are coming in right there. 12-gauge cables coming in from the roof for the solar. One thing about hooking all this up is the solar panels are not plugged in on the roof. That way, the leads coming in have no power coming to them because they're going to have considerable power. We're in absolute full sun right now at the moment. So this way, I get everything wired, get the whole unit mounted, and all ready to put everything all back together. The solar panels are all on. All of the Sikaflex caulk is hardened up and holding everything securely. The MPPT controller is installed finally correctly under the lounge in the Airstream, and we have power. We have the Newpowa solar panels providing power to the controller, and the controller charging the batteries and distributing the power throughout the Airstream. So with everything verified and everything working, now it's time for me to get back up on the rig, and we're going to secure all the cables with some cable ties. Well, here we are up on the roof again, and we're going to be tying these down, as I said. And we're going to use our alcohol and some paper towel, clean off the little spots, and then we're going to stick these cable ties here, these little flat things. We're going to stick these down, and then we're going to use the zip ties to hold the whole thing together. Let's get our cable secured. Inside and outside, our Newpowa solar is complete, and we can't wait to start boondocking. We plan on wintering back in Arizona again this year, and we're going to go there from Oregon via Idaho, and British Columbia. You need to tune into those videos to see how that turns out. Do you have solar on your rig? Is it working well for you? Did you do it yourself, or did you have it professionally installed? Or maybe your rig came with solar panels pre-installed. I'm Jim, and this is Airstreamer, and Michelle and I will see you down the road.